Welcome, people. Just waiting for a few eyeballs to show up before we start talking about Marvel annual sketches. At some point, I'll get myself a nice fancy little intro, but not today. Not today. Kind of getting them all ready here. Got the stack. Don't know if we get through the whole thing or not, but we will see. I know Andrew Gwen's going to be joining me in about 20 minutes, a group member. Hopefully he'll have some stuff to share as well. Keeping my background nice and hidden as well. This noise maker out of the way. All right, well, why don't we jump into it, and it'll be recorded, so anybody who's interested can do it. I am going to go in alphabetical order across all sets. So Marvel Annual has been running once a year pretty consistently consistently since 2016. So there have been 7 sets so far, I believe, from 2016 to 2022, which is labeled as 2021 to 2022, which I believe is the newest one that just came out. So rather than go by year, I'm going with the way I have them sorted, which is all 7 years just sort of together under the Marvel Annual banner. It's just a lot easier for me that way for storage. Once I get them into the binders, I probably will go by year. But for now, hey Adam, what's going on? Probably go with just, in fact, that's good that I know that, because now I can close this. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. This is no real pattern here. I'm just going to go through them alphabetically and, kind of talk about what I like about these cards, what makes me geek out. And we're going right in with one of the first sets, which was the first set for Marvel Annual, which was the 2016 set. This one has a pretty unique, actually they all have slightly different ones, but this one had the border at the bottom, obviously, with the year and the 2 logos, and this kind of intrusive logo up top. Upper Deck is definitely known for less than ideal logo placements on sketch cards sometimes, but as you can see here on this first one, Abdul Gofar did a really good job of working in She-Hulk there. I mean, this particular sketch, I mean, there's so much to like about this. And hey, Warner. And again, if anybody wants to jump on, feel free, or you can just listen to me soliloquy for the whole time. I mean, outside of just the character, which is just super well done, great anatomy, just a very straightforward pose that really captures She-Hulk. Fantastic colors, just the subtlety of the greens, the sort of tracksuit with the little color on the side to offset, and just nothing crazy, but just this sort of smoke-like background that he used really helps just make the character stand out. And it's, it just shows that you don't have to do, 20 minutes on all these buildings and other things in the background. With just with use of some nice colors, you really can make a difference. And for some of these, I will quickly show the back just so everyone can see the difference. I mean, these are great because the logo is on the front, and it has the date and the year. But it's your typical congratulations. This is a sketch card with your spot for the artist's signature. But I think, again, Abdul, I mean, that's just simple, fantastic, straightforward sketch card right there. Geeking out. Sorry, I realize I need a way to keep these from all falling over at the end, so I'll stack them back up like that. All right, we are going right into it. We're jumping ahead to annual 2021. So again, going alphabetically. This is Freddie Lopez Jr. This is Karma from the New Mutants. Freddie has, again, a very distinct style. I think I don't even know how to describe it, but he uses the colors really well and the shading for just to add a lot of really nice details everywhere. And you can see it most noticeably in the hand, but even along the side here, you've got at least 3 different shades of gray all along here. And that little extra detail, again, the slightly different, you got the yellow, the light source, the darker yellow down here. It really just, some of these cards, they absolutely can pop this way. I'm going to find, there we go, a little better when it's not in the direct light. Just really makes a huge difference on some of these cards and makes them jump right out. Again, this one for the annual 21, they move the logo up here to the top and off to the side, and a much less obtrusive logo across the top there. So a lot more real estate to play with at that point, which I think was a smart move. So, and again, love my New Mutants. So I think Freddie or Alfredo, I've seen them referred to as both, so I'm not sure which he prefers. Did a great job on that. Going back to 2016 with Captain of the Great Lakes Avengers, Mr. Immortal. He really got, I enjoyed the character in She-Hulk, but they really changed him up rather than being, this sort of, I don't want to say goofy, but he kind of was goofy hero in the books and the leader of the group. He was just this womanizer in the She-Hulk Disney Plus series. It was cool to see him get his due in an MCU story, but yeah, I don't like sort of what they did with him. I would definitely love to see a Great Lakes Avengers movie or TV show at some time. I think they've just got some phenomenal characters. They're sort of, I've always viewed them as Marvel's answer to the Doom Patrol. And I think they got that sort of goofy attitude. So again, and this was, sorry, I didn't give the artist due. This is Alfred Lay is the artist. Just fantastic. It's very reminiscent of sort of the classic Craven era Spider-Man crawling out of the ground. I mean, we've seen that sort of, character coming out of their yeah, there we go. Warner and Jobber, absolutely. I mean, I always forget. I can share some of the comments. There you go. Warner, it's local, and I love this comment. I mean, Big Bertha, Doorman. I mean, there are just so many cool characters up there. They would absolutely be phenomenal, no question. And there must be at least one more Great Lakes Avengers in this pile. All right, this will show how blind I am. I think this is 18 to 19. So this is, who is this? Abdul? Yeah, this is Alan Douglas. So I don't know much about Alan Douglas. This may be the only sketch I have from him, but I really enjoy this one. Right here, it's a little hard to tell on the camera, and that's the challenge with one like this, but this is some really nice clean silver ink on Archangel's wings, which really does a great job. And just, the space background's done really nice, subtle with the stars, and then this sort of little almost galaxy cosmic effect just really adds another nice touch there. So I love what Alan did here. Kind of apparently he's being shot at, the bullets reflecting off his wings. Simple, but really well done. And I always love those extra touches, like whether it's a painted section or really clean sort of silver ink. It's actually interesting to me. I'm curious, and Warner, I'm curious how you would do this. Because I'm assuming this ink is not easy to do, so I'm guessing he laid down all the gray first and then put the black on top of it, rather than trying to outline it in black and then just color in those little details without ever smudging over the line. That's how I would do it as a non-artist myself, but I have a trouble drawing a straight line, so I'm probably not the best person to ask on how you would draw something like that. But really love it. And And again, I think this is my only Alan Douglas, but really, really happy with it. You know, and overall, I mean, when you think about Marvel Annual, oh, there you go. So, which, you know, after I said it out loud, it seemed like it made perfect sense, you know, just to do the ink after. So I'm sure a lot of people do that. Makes perfect sense. Um, Marvel Annual is an interesting set overall. Um, it's always had sketches as a pretty tough pull, as far as I can remember. Truth be told, outside of last year and this year, I never actually broke a box myself. I just chased sketches in the third in the market. Just it was just easier that way. Any one where there is no guaranteed sketch, I really don't tend to go too heavy into, just because my sketches. How does bullet fire in a vacuum? Good question. Back to that one. We'll assume it's some sort of other projectile other than a bullet. There we go. Um, yeah, I mean, so these have many less sketches overall made as a result. But I think what I've found is this set, like a lot of sets, but this one in particular, I think you find I just want to be careful how I say this, an higher, I'll just say higher overall average quality. There's always some risk in saying that, because if you're saying average quality, that implies there are sketches that are quote unquote below average. But I think what I mean is, I think because there are less sketches, potentially with, you know, hopefully artists doing, there is a wide variety of artists, so hopefully artists are doing less and have more time. I think my assumption has always been the biggest hurdle to quality is the lack of time given to artists. And I've talked to so many where they say, yeah, they just sent me 50 cards and they're due in 16 days or something absurd like that. So yes, but anyways, enough talking about Marvel Annual. Yes, Adam, this one is indeed an Andre Toma. So Andre Toma is one of my focus artists. So we've got a nice little selection of Tomas coming in a row. The way I sort my cards, in addition to alphabetical order, is then when we have the artist, I go alphabetical by character name, because why not obsess over one more detail, right? Yeah, and beautiful comment here. When it just comes to subtle, you know, working with less, it's super impressive. And I do think Toma is a wonderful example of that. He doesn't go crazy on the details. His are always very clean. But again, he's so many artists. As I'm looking through cards over and over, I find that what attracts me to cards very often is color work and how it works into the overall card. And I think here, again, you can see a lot of nice gradation in the colors, both by using some very thin black lines, as in up here, but also just adding in some gray to sort of darken up certain shadow areas of the blue there. Again, I may be describing it totally wrong, but that's how, as a non-artist, my eye sees that. So this is Corsair, father of the Summers clan, and member of the, oh God, why did I say that out loud? Starjammers, is that it? I think so. I think it's the Starjammers. So great Corsair there. Yes, I agree. And that's the other thing about Toma. He is a very distinct sort of muted pastel palette that he uses that really makes his cards stand out from the crowd. In addition to sort of, to me, he also has an extremely unique way he draws faces. To me, if you only showed me the face, I'd be able to tell it's a Toma. He's just got this very clean style there. And here on this Magic, I'm going to have to undo what I just said about Marvel Annual in terms of how I sort these. But I'll get to that in a second. Again, really nice, slightly different color on the hair and the yellow on her costume. Again, right here, sort of really nice sort of shading in the indentations. Beautiful work on the metal arm there and the sword. My little pointer here, that's what I use to do this, in case you're wondering. This one's from 2020, and actually I realize Annual is a weird case because there are multiple years, so mine are actually sorted first by artist, then by set year, and then by character if there are multiple within the set year, because that's how my brain works. Obsessive compulsive, gotta have it all in some crazy order. Absolutely on that comment, very manga vibe. So, yeah, and again, another New Mutant, huge fan of them, as some of you may know. Love all mutants, but New Mutants were the book that really got me into New Mutants and X-Men were the books that got me into comic collecting back in the 80s, when I really started getting into them. Age myself a little bit here, but that's what it is. What can you do? Again, another Toma, another mutant, Magic's brother, Colossus, the Rasputin clan. Very sort of typical heroic pose. Again, I wish you could get a better look at this in the camera. Try to get it to focus for a second. Come on, now it's not going to work. But again, the reds and the yellows just really muted, and it's just so good. And especially how these contrast with the metal work he does and the way it just again shines. And right here's the perfect example. You've got that sort of light line right up the face, the light source obviously coming from this side, and the darker work over there. Yeah, it's the cat's out of the bag. What do you know? I wonder if I have a Danny Moonstar in here. This isn't actually a set that I did a lot of APs on, so that'll be interesting to see. I don't remember off the top of my head. We'll have to find out. But yeah, let's how about another Toma? So later set here, this one looks like 20 to 21. Again, I'm half blind, so it is so hard to read those little ones. Good Lord. Wonderful Jean Grey here. Again, I mean, just the multiple colors and just again, on a background, just the subtlest little sort of effects with the gray in the background, but it really just, it shows that extra attention to detail that really helps set apart some artists in terms of that attention to detail that's put in there. And it's just, there's definitely a good feeling as a collector when you see that work that he put into it. I mean, and let's be honest, right? Every one of these, the most an artist got for this is $5. I mean, just I'm probably going to mention that in every single episode, but just think about that for a second. This card, which easily will be in the $200-300 range in the market, you pay $5 for that. That's just, it's crazy town. And again, yes, we've got the economics with the APs. Warner, I heard you say something that I thought was brilliant on the last podcast on the MCC pod, which is, if you're only going to pay the $5, give more APs. 1 per 10 cards is just absurd. Literally, this is a piece of cardboard that you've had printed by the thousands. An extra AP probably costs Upper Deck 10 cents. Why wouldn't you give more of them out and be a little more flexible on the time frame and be much better on the approval turnaround, right? I think in the contract you're only supposed to have 6 months from the release date to do it. There's all sorts of ridiculous stuff that I've heard. Like, no, give more APs, it doesn't hurt anybody, and it only helps the excitement about the product. Give one per every 4 cards. And just make it so that artists want to do it. And again, this is in no way any sort of slight to the artists who are sketch card artists, and this is a big part of their life. But this is why so many artists over the years leave the industry, because it's not worth it, the sketch piece of the industry. And B, if you start paying more and doing this, maybe you could start to get some actual comic artists in too, which was what made some of those early sets like 97 and 98 so special. We had people who were actually working in the comics. And I'm not saying it has to be all them, but think about a release where you can say, hey, in addition to all your regular favorite artists, hey, Bill Sienkiewicz did 10 sketches for this set. Arthur Adams did 10 sketches. There are ways to incentivize not just the artists who have been busting their ass for the last 10 plus years doing this, but to bring in some quote unquote classic artists and to encourage new artists. That we always need to keep this fresh, because let's be honest, no one's ever going to stay in this outside of a few kind of crazy artists who've been doing this for years and are absolute blessings to us as collectors. Unless something changes, this isn't an economic model that encourages people to stick around for a long time. So, yeah, exactly. 1 AP per 10 is tough. This sums it up here. If you can do the same amount of work and get paid more, you'd be nuts not to take it. And who would blame anyone for doing that? So, yeah, exactly. Imagine every set you can get 4 or 5, big name comic book artists who are also inserts in there. You want to talk about a way to drum up more excitement. And it just seems like we're going in the opposite direction, where sketches are becoming rare hits, one per case. And in some cases, we've seen less than one a case. You may get a case and not get a single sketch. For someone like me, it's unfortunate. On one of those, I'm certainly not going to break to try to catch it, to catch the luck or the lightning in the bottle, as it were. But, the other part is the scarcity will end up driving up prices. And I think a lot of new collectors having come in, I think there's definitely a lot of excitement and interest in sketch cards. And I think prices have gone up as a result, but I also think there's a lot of people who don't know how to price sketch cards. And I'm not saying there is a one way, certainly, but I think when in doubt, knowing that if I hit a sketch and it's a 1 every $4 hit, of course people are going to try to recoup their money. And I think you see a lot of I don't think disambiguation is the right word, but a lot of sort of a wide range between how similar cards from the same artists are being presented out there. And I think a lot of people just defer on the high end, but I'm going off the track. Another lovely Toma here. Glad to see you have you were coming back at him. I know I don't have any of yours in this particular set, but I'll definitely make sure we get you back on once I do my start doing my MM16 sketches. Again, simple kitty back in the Shadowcat days, and just again, let me say this as a collector, and you artists can tell me how I'm saying this wrong. First of all, you immediately look at this face, and to me, there's no question that's Kitty. Obviously the costume and whatnot aside, but really just take a look for a second. Like, you've got half-formed lips with just a little color, two little tiny marks for nose, and then nothing crazy around the eyes. Yet somehow it all works so perfectly to render that face, right? I've seen some super detailed faces, and those work, and they're great, but it just shows how I think if you do it right, right, you really can get away with not a lot of not going over the top on a face. I don't know how else to describe that, but it's just a perfect example of just minimalist style that just hits perfectly. And again, to me, oh my god, I think the hair's great. I don't know how you guys all do hair. To me, that's just like pure chaos. Trying to render that, anybody who does hair well, I give them a ton of credit because that's just crazy town. Look at this, another Toma. There we go. Magneto. Um, this is always an interesting one to me, and I could. Um, Great comment there. Never OD the face. Yep. Sometimes this bothers me. Sometimes it doesn't. It really has to work. And what I'm talking about is when you use a piece of anatomy to cover over part of a face. Um, and I think here it's done well. Um, Hang on just a second. While you look at that, I have my scans over here. I want to pull this up on my computer. Uh, why do I don't have a scan of Magneto? That's bizarre. What I'm going to pull this off for a second. Don't mind me for 1 second. Um, huh. Well, um, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but something seems to be missing there now that I notice it. Maybe it's just weird shading, but a one, a two, a three, a four, a four. So maybe it's hidden in the shadows over here, but definitely never actually noticed that before. What I was talking about is how the finger here is covering the mouth, but I think it's done well. And you've got the nice depth with the black around the edge of the finger, so it really shows that it's in front. And I think the rest of the face is done really, really well. But now I can't unsee the fingers. It's the problem of going through your cards in this detail. You might find some little flaw. But that aside, again, wonderful use of the colors and the red and the different textures there, and just the clean sort of, metal rivets around the edge. This is the problem of doing a live, right? You find something like that, and yeah, there you go. Okay, well, that's my. Okay, excuse me. Let's have a beverage. Okay, last home up. So here is one by an absolute rock star in the industry. This is Bella Rochlin. Bella is fantastic. I actually was fortunate enough to meet Bella at the last New York Comic Con. She's absolute wonderful person, amazing artist. Just so nice to see her there, and I was able to get a commission at the show. Super, super happy, and owning one of her pieces is always a treat. And she is super. Oh, hey, super well respected as an artist. Andrew, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I
Matt,
am
how are you?
fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. It's always nice when there's someone other than me just going on and on and on.
Just in time for the Bella Roshlin, huh?
I know, right? You came in, you missed the Tomas, but you got in for a Bella.
I
Um,
was watching. The Tomas are incredible. Very
they came
nice.
out really well.
The c-
That
the
looks
colors
the way.
on artwork is incredible.
Oh,
It's like you said, like a soft muted color, but you can really tell a lot of the details when you really. I mean, I'm sure with all the work that you have in hand, you can really take some time. So we only often can only see like scans, so we can't see, the actual color in hand. So that's awesome.
yeah, no, definitely. When should for all two of our viewers, why don't you just tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I got into back into Marvel and a lot of trading card collecting back when, of course, when COVID happened. We developed a lot of and picked up a lot of our old pastimes, and I really got back into Pokemon trading cards. And then, from a younger age before Pokemon, I actually was into Marvel a lot when it came to mostly the cards for me. My cousins were into comic books, but I was more so into, the 92 universe. And yeah, I look young, but I'm actually 36 years old. So,
You
we
are young,
started off.
36 old.
But I think I stated this before in a previous channel, but when we were young, we had the privilege to go to a lot of Comic Cons here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And with Comic Con, there was a ton of vendors there, a ton of comic vendors, and I think cards were getting printed like crazy, and the boom of cards were a huge deal. But as far as for me, I'd always been interested into the artwork. Um, really, just I guess I'm just more of a visual person, more so than reading a storyline and actually reading through the comics. I was always so fascinated with comic book covers and different types of the art within the comics and how they kind of made into the cards. And then with masterpieces, we were able to kind of see original artwork as well. And just being older, being able to really start to look up the artists like Jusco and the Hillebrands and just kind of just taking it back and just seeing what they actually created as paintings and artwork for these prints. Now that I'm younger, I just, you're into various different things of collecting. And I know a lot of the sports stuff is, mainly chasing the inserts and stuff like that. But I've been so fascinated since I've re-entered the hobby of Marvel trading cards and taking a look at sketch cards and getting to know the artists and getting to know their background and following them on social media or just taking a study of what they've created in the past. I mean, I'll go back to probably, as far as MCCW will take me, and then just exploring their pages as well. And I think you did a stream last week on, I think it's called the sketchcollectors.com. And that
Oh, yep,
was that the
yep.
website. Yeah. So there's a lot of, I would guess you say like more logged and cataloged older work there. And so I've been actually recently just starting to explore more into the Rittenhouse artists and Rittenhouse products as well. I mainly just been sticking to Upper Deck just because I'm familiar with sports. I'm familiar with that card stocking company. And I know that Upper Deck had the licensing and it switched. And they lost it for a couple of years and it switched over to a Rittenhouse. And you know, I think with that is I often hear sometimes artists say like with these sketch cards, the actual card stock itself is not the best quality. And so maybe what I was going to ask you is like when compared to Rittenhouse versus Upper Deck, is there more one more the artist prefers, or is it just kind of still the same type of quality?
Well, so we do have two artists in the channel, so that'd be a great question for Warner and for Adam. Um,
Yeah,
Annual in general is a thinner stock. Um,
correct.
I would suspect most artists like, say, Premiere Masterpieces and even the recent Fleer Ultras, just as they tend to be thicker. But I think it's more than just thicker. And
Hmm.
Adam and Warner, please tell me. I think some stock, and I actually just heard someone make a reference about one of the upcoming sets, which is the Allegiance Avengers versus X Men. I forget who the artist was, but they made a comment that said the surface of that cardstock didn't really like whatever the art supplies they normally did. So
Hmm.
depending, it's less, I think, in some cases, sort of the thickness than the paper that's used on the top. I haven't heard a lot of recent complaints about sets. In fact, that one on Avengers vs. X Men was the first one I heard in a while on the surface.
Hmm.
And I don't know. That's a good question. I did send Warner the link. I don't know if he's going to join us as well, but yeah. And so Adam mentioned right here, I'll link that. The thicker stock is better, and I think Adam has worked on,
I got
uh,
you.
yeah, two very thick sets. So he was first, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam was MM16, and then he worked on Premiere 17 as well, both which were either at least 100 or 130 point stock. And the surfaces, were really good on those. There is one example in here of probably the worst surface ever. I can jump the line and give a preview. In 2016, I'll skip Bella for just a second. We'll go over there. They had a plex. Look at that. He even won't accept the light,
Oh
right?
wow.
Yeah, but it's a clear plex. Oh, that's horrible. Let me try it like this. Maybe if I hold it up. There you go. You can. Oh, this is the part. There
You'll
we
have to
go.
hold it
Right
in front of your face. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. There we go. But this surface was an absolute nightmare for people to work on. So,
I
oh,
know.
there's Warner. Hang on, invite him in. Hey,
I know
Warner.
on 2017, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, they did a Plexi as well, and I either those don't scan well or something, or they just didn't really quite turn out. I think the way that I guess the product manager for that card set was probably envisioning sharper lines or something, but it's probably very hard to do with plexiglass, I would imagine,
Yeah,
because of
I
the
think that
surface.
I think the artists who did, and I only have one. I think because they are so hard to find good examples of, and that's not again, that's not a fault of an artist. It's literally like, hey, draw on this piece of like really slick, slippery thing that doesn't want to hold. Certainly doesn't want to
Right.
hold Copics like alcohol-based markers. I know that.
Hey,
Hey, Warner,
Jalen,
welcome.
it's nice to meet you. I love
Hey,
your
what's up?
work.
Yeah, oh, thanks,
Totally,
man.
totally an
Appreciate it.
honor to be amongst you guys, and
Yeah, come on.
just
Stop
wanted to
it.
say definitely grateful, and I am very much a student of this whole collecting of sketch cards and learning about it, and it's been just amazing. Like honestly, just to be able to see the various different talents and styles of the artists that I'm interested in or catches my eye. Um, I've always like been very keen to art itself, so and just to be able to see everybody's various different styles and what they do on essentially a 2.5 by 3.5 card. It's incredible. Well, of course, the bigger pieces as well, but
Oh, yeah.
to be able to think of something like that and just be able to you know manifest it and put it into to life within a smaller card, it's very truly talented for sure.
Well, I will say this. It certainly was a learning curve. Um, having my background being in comics in general, you're used to working on 11 by 17,
Hmm.
and then you go to 2.5 by 3.5, and that's uh, that's a big jump. I gonna lie to you. It took me a few years to figure it out. So,
Try and keep that same level of detail,
And I think
well,
which.
yeah,
I think
or
for
even just to try and figure out the hobby, really.
Boy,
you know, and what works and what doesn't. I mean, Matt, you can attest. My first foray in 17 was a freaking disaster because you have one of those cards.
you almost didn't recognize it.
Oh no, I was like, oh yeah,
I still love that story.
didn't I see that on eBay or something?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, I feel like how I select, right? And what catches my eyes is I tend to start with the face for characters because I realize that the card stock that you're working on, and the details that you're putting into is so small, and to be put a face is just a fraction of that card. And artists like um Sanu or Liddy Lee, you can tell the eyes from miles away, and it's
Yeah.
probably like a 1 2 centimeter eye, right? And it's just incredible to be able to just see those level of details when you
Well,
frame it within a card stock.
I think that mostly when it comes to particularly when you're trying to illustrate a character and bring out their personality. You say that the face is just a little portion. Yeah, it may pick up only a portion of the real estate, but in my opinion, it's 90% of the freaking card.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
and I think that those that can pull that off, as far as personality and so on and so forth. I mean, those are, I mean, I use the term illustrator a lot because that's what we are. We illustrate, but and I don't think that individually that you can call yourself an artist. I think it's up to somebody else to call you that, or to put you at that level. But I think that those that can you know uh, show that personality and illustrate that character, and not the character in terms of it's so and so, but the character of
The
that
yeah.
character. That's a true artist.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and again,
Oh,
Bella.
real quick, about the cardstock thing, because
Oh yeah,
you just brought it up.
Yeah.
The funniest thing is that I always thought that I liked the thicker stock.
Hmm.
Um, but the problem is that as it gets, wet, it tends to want to separate. So
Hmm.
believe it or not, as far as working on the surface itself, the thinner stock is actually better in terms of, working on. However, you get so much bleed through that, it's
Yeah.
kind
I,
of,
I I I actually don't mind it. I recently just got an AP from a set that hasn't been released yet, and there's paint and there's bleed through and stuff in the back, and I think it's artwork. Even if you were to put it on your workplace and accidentally get some paint in the back of it, I think it
oh yeah.
builds character to the piece because I mean, just personally, I mean, I know you're in your workspace and you're creating a piece, you're creating art.
It's the dirt under the fingernails, right?
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
and I think
It's
it's a learning curve for new collectors, right? Because we've had so many collectors come from sports where it's all about condition.
Yeah.
They see something like that and they immediately think that's a ding as far as worth of a card because it would mean a lower grade. And we're not going to get into the whole grading sketch cards. I think you guys did a great job of talking about that on the MCC pod the other day. Um, but yeah, it's I think there's just some education there for newer collectors to say, listen, this is art. It's not a bad thing. If the
well,
back of it looks like a hot mess, it's okay.
no, you're right. I mean, it's it's not a a sketch card is not a it's not a trading card. It's for lack of a better way of putting it, it's a piece of art, right?
Yeah.
It's going to have dings. It's going to have some mileage on it and stuff, but it's also not. I mean, that's the bonus. That's the icing on the cake, in my opinion. You pack pull a sketch card. It's like that's a bonus. That's not, in my opinion, anyways. That's not necessarily what you're. That's not what you should expect per
Right.
pack, per box, per case, or whatever. I think that should be that little gem that you get. But
Well, I
that's
mean,
that's my
I, I
opinion.
I think the crossover a little bit with the language and the terminology is oftentimes with sports, you hear the word one of one, and we see that Upper Deck is using one of one a lot now. So you can see how there's a little bit of, you know, crossover, or could you really blame them for calling it a one on one on a listing when the black back of the
Right.
card literally says one on one,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
you're absolutely right. I think Sketch Card High said this once before in your podcast, Matt, is a sketch card should not be the chase card. It should be the case hit that is an absolute bonus and piece of art that you've won. Like it's not something that we're I break cards, for example. I haven't pulled a sketch card on my stream yet, but when that day comes, I'm not going to promote it as like, you got the one of one, chase hit purple FX, whatever that is. You got an amazing card from an amazing artist. Let's break it down and take a look at the lines, take a look at the art, zooming in and zooming out. Like, congratulations, you own a piece of art now. From an artist, signed by them, or and you could reach out to them if you want to. If you want to do support them more, do an AP. Like, I see it as a gateway into connecting with someone, and that's what this
I like
recently
that.
happened to me. Um, I've gotten the sketch cards, and I really mainly got into to set pooled sketch cards because of Marvel Masterpiece and how it was like one card per box. And then I realized, like, there are other sets out there that like, for example, annual. It's extremely hard. I broke so many annual boxes, and we didn't hit one single sketch card. But what I did was I searched eBay, I searched for artists that I like, Mitch Ballard. I just recently did some work with Rich Henneman as well, and I connected with them, and we created something together, and we connected, and I know that we've made like some sort of a, you know, patriotism friendship, and I could always reach out to them for further artwork, and I think that's what it needs to be, is like a gateway into art, Marvel art, outside of comics.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Rich. One thing I've thought about doing as an episode is to talk about how sometimes some artists suddenly just click, and I think Rich is a great example of that. I've got Rich's work going back to, I want to say, like 2013 in Rittenhouse, and I've got a
Hmm.
lot of Rich's stuff. And it seems like when Spider-Man Metal hit, all of a sudden Rich's stock as an artist just hockey sticked up, which is great to see. But to me, it's sort of fascinating. Like, I mean, I think his art has always been good. It's not like
Right.
he was doing stick figures and he just suddenly started putting effort in. He's always done great work. But for some reason, something about Spider Man Metal, and maybe it's all the new collectors and his style resonated. But I think that would be a fascinating thing to have someone like him on and talk about that. Like,
Well,
what do you
I,
think caused this? Why all of a sudden did you blow up?
I will say this: his work in Spider-Man Metal is by far my favorite work of his that I've
Same.
researched.
Yep.
His choice of characters, his detail and that's one thing that I reach out to Rich for, because I do like the details that he puts in his background. Very sharp lines. The color choice is very, like, it pops for me. These certain sorts of style of art that I really do like, and what drew me to him is what I've saw being, traded, or just being in the market for his work in Spider-Man Metal. So that's funny that you say that, because I totally agree, and that's what drew me to him, as an artist.
Well, I want to interject real quick because I really want to move on with Bella because
Yeah.
She's
Bella.
staring at us the whole time.
No,
Yeah, I know.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna ask
but
you, Matt. Oh, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry, John. Go
yeah, I
ahead.
was just gonna say when it comes, and again, so I have no inside, you know, uh, no inside baseball on this or anything, but it seemed to me that it was Spidey Metal where they really started hammering down on the ratios for sketches in the set, kind of a thing. So,
Hmm.
I mean, if you got in and you take the fact that they cut down on the ratios and the amount of hype that went behind Spidey Metal, yeah, dude. Anybody who's, I mean, it's no different than it's basically like the next step. It was like Marvel Anime took sketches up to here, and
Yeah,
then Spidey Metal took them up to here.
yeah.
So that's my outside opinion. Outside looking in, kind of a thing, or one step in the door looking in. That would be my guess. Is that
And
the sketches were so rare in Spidey Metal compared to earlier releases, and then yeah, I mean, you got a guy that's just solid. Of course, and of course that
there's
was
been,
also the time frame where you started having the influx of new new collectors because I mean we were just coming out of the pandemic, the pandy, right? and that was probably the first set that Upper Deck did where they could actually visit, the printers to actually do QA, you know,
Well,
and there was
we
a lot
won't talk too
of
much
stuff going
about
on there.
QA for Spider-Man
No,
Metal.
no,
Sure.
no, but
Yeah,
As somebody
and
who,
that's its own issue.
oh,
that's compared to
but the
everybody
sketches were
losing
amazing.
their minds over X-Men, right?
Yeah,
So
no,
I think I think that was just one of those things where you know it was a perfect storm.
yeah,
For anybody that was on that set, they're all going to be highly sought after because it was that next tier. Again, anime brought sketches, up to here, but I think Spidey Metal probably took it to the next level. Now on to Bella, because
Exactly.
I love me some Bella.
So
yeah.
yeah,
Bella's
and this one came out great.
incredible.
Now this is a very deep cut. So I'll give you, if you guys want to try and guess, I'll let you. I would be stunned if you got who it was. You would let me just see that you would have to be a deep cut X-Men fan to get this.
I'm not even gonna
So
try.
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So this character's name is Layla Miller.
Yeah.
So
Nope.
Layla was, yeah, she was one of the key characters in the House of M storyline when Wanda did the No More Mutants and created that whole alternate reality.
Right.
Layla was the one who, outside of Wolverine, she was the only one who could remember what had happened before. And her power was she could actually give those memories back to people. So she was the one who started cluing everybody into, hey, something's wrong here, and starting that whole revolution. So,
oh, what year was that from? Not.
House of M. Oh
Oh no,
God,
no,
when was
that card
Oh,
right
this
there.
sketch. This one
Yeah.
is a very recent one. This is 19 to 20, and I think I
Okay.
got it in 20, either late 20 or early 21. I got her
Was
doing
she
this
was
Is
issue.
she in
that
that set or was that a
Yep, no, she was on the set.
oh that's awesome. That's great.
is was that a commission or was that
This was a commission, yes.
Okay.
okay, cool. So
Yep.
that was that's you adding to your list.
My list of bizarre mutants. Yep.
Right. Got
um
it.
I will say this about annual is every year, and this year was one of the years that I pre-ordered boxes as well, and every year I trace back the artists, and I mean the artist list is amazing every year. Like I will say that from a card set, obviously we know that, and I think you said this earlier, Marvel Annual, the set itself is one of the hobby pricing, the hobby boxes with it being in the market. It's one of the lowest prices that you can get into the hobby, right?
Yep.
But if you happen to have a chance to get a rare sketch, I've seen battle booklets on streams pulled, and it's just like the art is incredible, and I think, and I just recently got some AP work done from Eckenhodge, and I went back to his profile and I looked what he did with 2019 2020. He said that he spent the most work, time, and detailed in this set because they gave him fewer cards, and he had more time over the pandemic to really spend time, and he had just wanted a break from anime, and he really wanted to get into like his style, and he said he really enjoyed that set, which was really cool to hear.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. Again, I would, we could talk so much just and veer off onto the artist. He's fascinating to me because he really rebranded himself to the point where he changed his name, right?
Yeah,
Because he did some work early on as John Ace, and then he just sort of rebranded himself, wrote his name backwards, and now he's Eckenhoge, which
yeah.
is just wild to me.
That sounds
Um,
familiar.
yeah, no, I don't have any from this set, but I do have quite a few of his. I first ran into him on Marvel 80th anniversary, and definitely love his style. So you want to see a variety of differences in my collection?
Yeah.
So we
So
can
we
go.
got is this Leapfrog or
So this is Frogman. Yep,
Frogman?
Frogman.
Frogman,
Yep.
interesting.
And I believe he was also, like Mr. Immortal from earlier, he was in She-Hulk. Remember the villain who had the frog suit? That was him, and he tried to sue the guy who made the suit, and it turned out he put
Oh,
rocket fuel into the suit by mistake. And Daredevil got him off. So
Well, yeah, no, that's Leapfrog, right?
no, I think Leapfrog's different. Um, so hang on a sec. I'll pull up the difference. So oh good lord, I'm gonna do Marvel Frogman. So yes, so the original Frogman is this guy, and yeah, he's sort of a goofy one. He's the comedy one. Leapfrog, there we go, is much more of a. I can show you. They really do sort of look the freaking same, don't they? Oh no. So all right, now I remember. Yes, sorry. It could be either. Leapfrog is the father. Frogman got his father's costume. That's the difference.
of
They're both
course,
All
that's
right,
his
so like
father.
in
yeah.
in She-Hulk, that's Leapfrog.
If that was the name they used, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They probably thought that sounded better than Frogman, certainly.
Yeah.
But yes, in the comics, the father and the son took over his costume and was just a bumbling buffoon. This is Brian Soriano, who again has a wonderful ink style. This isn't the best example, just because of the odd character, but he definitely uses some very bold darks, and even here you can see with sort of the hash marks. Really like his work. Definitely
It's
a
a
much better.
it's a very organic style of inking where it's not super crisp, but it does give great texture and a feeling of shadow
Yeah,
there, and it's not. I mean, I dig it. I mean, that's the stuff that I get into. I mean, anything that looks too mechanical, especially when
Mhm.
inking. Oh man, I mean, and this is coming from a guy who's inked Transformers comics. Holy smokes, dude! That's that's brutal. I mean, I inked Transformers with a brush because I wanted to get more of an organic feel into it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate the this somewhat chaos in the shading in terms of cross hatching and stuff. So no, I'm digging this for sure.
no, he's fantastic. Absolutely.
That
And again, another one of those very weird characters.
that 2016 card stock is very similar with the markings like Marvel Ages, I believe. Yeah, there's like a big logo on the top, and
Yeah.
then there's
Oh
a
my god!
thing at the
Or
bottom.
those
So
or those sketch covers that had that red banner along the bottom. What was it, like Marvel Now or something? I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, but there was, and that stock was like super waxy and
how
nothing
was
would
it?
stick to it. Oh, brutal.
Yeah. Of all the annuals we've seen through, the most recent one, even though 2016 has some of my favorite sketches that I
Hmm.
own, I think it's just an abomination of how much real estate is wasted between the border at the
Mhm.
bottom and then that
They
atrocity in the middle.
there's a lot of great ones that they were able to work through that all of that though, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the sign. I mean, an artist, will work with what they're given. Oh, actually, no, there was another one that was just as bad, wasn't there? It was 18 to 19 was nothing to write home about either. But this is Creasley is the artist, obviously Storm. And I only have a few of Crees. I don't know a lot about them as an artist, but I really like just the simplicity of this. Like there's some, I don't know if you can see it here. You know what I can do though is I can cheat. And what I can do is show my scan when I don't think it's doing enough. There we go, window, and I can share this. This might even be the smarter way to do it than doing the actual scans, quite honestly. So, but again, so sort of, I can't use my little poker, but I'll do it on this. You can see sort of that kind of honeycomb crisp hatching on the shirt there. Just a really nice subtle detail. Um, and again, really nice, just the detail of the X here. Didn't take the shortcut and like cover over, so you can see where the costume shows a little skin there.
Hmm.
Just little details like that make great, and really nice effects work. And you can definitely see it much better on the scan, I think, than you can here on the card, with that little sort of really light Kirby crackle effect going on there, and
I
the
mean,
power effect.
anytime you see a mainly white, you know, colored sketch, and you can see the details in it, and it pops. I mean, that's always a win, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And again, the effect that follows all the way up here, and
mhm,
just some slight blue along here on the side. Even in the scan
right.
on the big screen, it's a little tough to see it, but you can sort of see it
Well,
lightly.
I would argue that what really sets it off is, to your point in terms of, it's okay, it's all mostly white, so on and so forth. That's a testament to the quality of the line work here. To
Absolutely. The
really,
hair is just popping for me right now. It's just
but
so
I
much
mean, just
details in the
the
hair.
line weights
The
that are
line.
kind of, dragged through the drawing, as it, if you look at her left arm and stuff, from her breast down her arm, you can see how the line thins and really
Mhm.
kind of, helps uh, helps sell that foreshortening,
Yeah,
right? And not to mention, again, and just being a bold line against a light background, and playing with the border of the card itself, right? And coming in with the white, to paint over the red border to, help her pop a little bit further.
yeah.
So,
No, that is
I
a
mean,
nice touch.
again, I think as some of these sketch card artists, I mean, what they, I mean, to your point, Matt, where some of these this card stock, you're kind of limited with what they give you in terms of their card design, and the way that some of these illustrators are able to, you know, cheat the system or play with it to some degree to their advantage is, it's pretty impressive. I don't, I
Yeah.
mean,
Absolutely.
you gotta give a high five
I mean,
to that,
that is, I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. It would have been so easy to just stop at the line and have the leg,
Absolutely.
it's
Oh
cut
yeah,
behind, but use a little bit of that sort of whiteout or whatever the white ink is called, and just extend it down. It's a
yep.
fantastic detail, and
Well,
it really
and
had.
it also gives it more depth. I mean, it's almost a
Absolutely.
3D effect, right?
Yeah, no, speaking of that, for 2016 set, I think the artist is Coconuts or something. How he
Oh,
did the
coconut,
Oh,
yes,
framing, how he did the
yep,
framing, the 3D, he did a 3D gold framing, and then the artists, and some were popping out and some weren't. So they really had some artists, like including this one, right? They really had a play on of like, I'm going to try to, use more of this card stock to make it really pop out of the card,
yep,
because there was limited space there. They had to, some had to do this, and it's just incredible to be able to do that with a limited space.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll do a little preview of the K's before I get there. Like you
Yeah,
said.
I didn't mean to cut in
No,
line
no, no.
here, but
It's a great example.
yeah.
And that it's sort of become his signature style, which is interesting.
Matt, how do you say the artist's last name?
Kokonakis Achilles.
Coconut.
something Greek.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got his own studio, very similar to Perna Studios, called
Oh,
Iconic
cool.
Creations. And they've had, I think he's put out 7 sets so far. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out.
Hmm.
His biggest ones are called iconic literature, where they use sort of public domain stories. So they do sketches like Moby Dick, Alice in Wonderland,
Oh,
um,
cool.
and they get some really top name artists on those sets. I
That's
mean, he
awesome.
knows a lot of amazing artists, so absolutely worth checking out if you are open to branching beyond Marvel for sure. I'm trying to decide if I want
Yeah.
to keep going with the pictures or just keep going with the
Oh
bigger one.
wow,
Let's go. Let's go
that
with the
is
pictures.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
yeah. What I can do is let me drag this one. How do I do it? I'll stop sharing for now. And what I'll do is if there's anywhere I don't think we're getting enough of the detail, I will do that and go to that.
I'm so glad
Um,
you shared that scan because seeing it right there and seeing the scan was amazing
yeah,
details in that scan.
I mean, the biggest challenge is this is the more I get to the light source, the more washed out it gets, and the light source is at the center. Um, and there, this particular camera, unfortunately, there's no way to zoom in when it's um, out of there. But yeah, what I'll do is on each one, we'll start with the camera, and then I will just every once in a while I'll just pop it up just to share. Because again, you're right, especially around here in the face. You lose, I think, in this small one, it's much harder to see the details around the mouth and whatnot. And even just the detail like on the chains. I mean, look at the time he took
Man,
to do the multiple colors and shading on the chain with the flame light source. I mean, it's just fantastic.
And
I,
this is a neat effect that he did. And I don't know if that's a yellow water-based marker like on the cheeks and the chin,
yep,
or if that's a white water-based marker that he went over with a yellow
color.
marker and alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no, that's a
think
good
that's
question.
what he did with the chain. But it's really it's kind of funny because um I found, like, if you're working on a red character, as an example, like say Iron Man, I'll take like a white water based poster paint marker and then do the highlights. But over time, that alcohol soaks into that white and turns it into like in a yellow
mm,
kind of a thing. So, but this is a very smart move in terms of going white and then going over it with a marker as opposed to going white over marker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is the artist name is Dejan Parnell, who I am 98% sure you can also find online under the name Dark Imp, Darke Imp.
Mm.
And Dejan's been around for a while. I got some APs from them and got some cards from I want to say 2016 masterpieces, but just really love their work. And this one in
I,
particular, it's got so much going for it.
that sketch is amazing. Yeah, definitely checking all the boxes for me for sure.
Yeah.
Love that.
And this next one, it's great to sort of switch between these two because I think they
Hmm.
are a really nice example of how you can do different takes on a character and still have it come out well. So you've got that one there, and then you've got a much more cartoony version here from Eduardo Garcia. Um, right? So
Okay.
again, very sort of simple drawing, but putting in that effort with the colors.
Hmm.
And even though it's a very, not a lot of depth to the inking style, it's a much more simple inking style. And this is one where I don't think you're actually served looking at the big one quite honestly. I think it's
Right.
much better. You sort of see it sort of at card size because I think the big detail on this one sort of distracts from the simplicity of this card. Um,
I kind of like the one on the Garcias because it kind of reminds me of the like Mexican Day of the Dead
oh
holiday kind
yeah,
of a thing. It's got
Right.
yeah,
that vibe to it.
Sugar skull
Yeah,
vibes
exactly.
to
The
it.
sugar
Yeah.
skull.
Yeah.
Yep.
yep.
I mean,
You
I, I just been just so to see people's taste, in what they collect when it comes to Marvel and the different artists, and some people just absolutely adore the chibi style, and some people, wanting to stray away from that and go more of a realistic painting, portrait, Marcia Dye style. And it's just like, I just wish I could be able to collect them all. It's just so funny because it's just depending
See,
on what
Adam.
mood I'm in that day. It's just like
Yep.
what and I see that very much in your collection, Matt. It's just like it's kind of all different types of styles. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, I definitely I like a lot of different styles, no question. I love the cartoony. I love, again, we're going to go from the cartoony to, another much more realistic one here,
Nice.
which is this is Eric Hutchison did this one, and again, this is a really nice, uh, not clean. This has got sort of it almost has sort of a dirty feel to it, but which I really like. That's
What
dirty is probably
what
the
year
wrong
is
word.
this?
This one is also
2016.
16. Yep.
What? I'm sorry. What year?
This is 2016. The Hutchison is.
Did you see his latest post?
Oh, that's a different Hutchinson. That's
Oh, okay.
Hutch
That's Kenneth Hutchison. So
Okay.
yes,
Hutchison. Yeah.
but I
Okay.
did see that. That was the 10-year difference. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that
yeah,
was fantastic. Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. At least let me say this: I'm 99% sure it's different. It's possible his name is actually Kenneth Eric Hutchison, for all I know, and maybe he went by
Mhm.
Eric early. Don't know, but this is signed as E Hutch, and it's Eric
Okay.
Hutchison. So
Okay.
I'm going to go on the assumption they're different, but if it gets back to him, I'm sure he'll correct me. But yeah, again, just a very simple one here. I really like, the way he sort of did the color explosions, even kind of going right into the dark, just to add something else to, distinguish the card. But just all the various shades of green in here on both the
Mhm.
face and just the shading. It's just, and the funny thing
And
is, I don't even know if I would know if the lighting, like if the lighting source was correct. Uh, to be honest, like to me, I look at it, I'm like, oh, look at the shading. It means there's a light source, but I never actually take the time to be like, okay, so that means the light is coming from this direction, right? And does
mhm.
it check
Hmm.
off? I guess I don't know. So I'm sure an artist would be
Well,
much more tuned to that as me
I
than me.
enjoy it when they do the light reflection off of like an FX power or something, and you could see some on their shield or their body, whatever color, their powers are. I've always enjoyed that as well on sketches when the artists kind of take that extra time to show that light source.
yeah. I'll be honest with you. It's a tricky thing in terms of the lighting because you have.
Hmm.
I would argue that the lighting, the primary lighting is coming from the front left of her, looking at her. But then you have the backlighting as well, which is what kind of adds that halo effect to her. Um, that's a tricky thing, and I say that it's tricky in the sense that a is this wait a minute, is this a real card or is this a plexiglass?
This is a real one.
Real.
Yep.
Oh, okay, okay. I would say that it's tricky, not in in actually pulling it off by any means, but it's tricky based on how much time you have to spend on per card.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you get a handful of cards, and you gotta you gotta get them done by a certain point in time. So there is going to be, and this is a thing that always kind of cracks me up, where it's like, oh yeah, I got this, so you'll see it like an opening by somebody online, and it's like, oh yeah, the sketch card is like, you know, not quote unquote up to par, but that's not really the case. I mean, the sometimes, and don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not like every contract you get is one of those things where it's you've got 2 weeks to get this done. That's not the case at
Mhm.
all. But there are occasions, and we don't know what sets those were,
Mhm.
right? Where it was like, oh my goodness, you may have like I'll give an example. And again, this is just my, coming from my perspective. I think it was Premiere 19. From what I saw within the artist community,
Hmm.
there were mass rejections in
Mm.
that set, and I don't know why or what led up to it or anything like that. All I know is that Upper Deck was scrambling to fill those boxes,
Mm.
right? Those packs with cards. So, I mean, not only was it one of those things where, holy smokes, we don't have artwork to put into Premiere, but we don't even have stock. So, like, when after, there was this big mix up, because I did, I think, 3 batches in that. And I can tell you the third batch that I ended up getting, which happened to be after, whatever the train wreck was at that point with the artists and stuff. Maybe it was guys that just never did it, or whatever. I don't know. Um, but the stock was different on that third batch. It was a totally different, a different
Surface or
lot. Oh yeah, absolutely. It was different to work on.
huh.
Interesting.
It was not the first 2 batches that I did. The stock was much nicer than the third, and that was, in all fairness, that's, Upper Deck going, hey, we got to get new stock for these new
Because we
sketches.
rejected so many of them, right?
Yeah, but they're in a pinch, and hey, in all fairness, it's like, are you going to pay top dollar for the replacements when you're already behind the 8 ball? You know, so not to, and that's not even saying that they weren't paying top dollar. I'm just saying that it was definitely a different lot number of paper that they were ordering. And
Interesting.
as we know, when you go from lot number to lot number, you get different, quality,
Interesting. All
in
right. So
product.
I'm gonna horrify you guys for a second and turn off my filter, only because. So Warner, I noticed you got the saber there.
Mm.
Should, should we have a little battle of fandom?
Whoa!
You know what? That my
You just
lightsaber.
keep that at your desk, Matt? Just
My
kidding.
Yeah. You never know. Someone might break in.
this you would
Oh,
you'd be. This is my remote control in my studio.
Oh, all right.
This is what I use to close the door when the
that
dog
is
walks in.
cool.
This is what I do to grab my
The
blind
blinds when you unopen them.
closer thing. That way I never have to leave my chair. Um, so yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
literally just that's what I use it for.
Nice.
It's
Well, Matt, I
silly.
wanted to show you two sketch cards. I got to run here in a
Oh,
little bit.
please,
But
let's
I
do it.
I currently, like I said earlier, I have two APs. I'm really excited with Ekin Hodge coming up. He's currently work in progress right now for me. When I first, like almost a year ago, when I really started diving into MCCW, the Facebook group, I was searching anime sketches. I think that was everybody searches anime sketches at
Yeah,
one point, right? And so I kept running into a couple of them on EPAC that had the name Eckenhodge, and I loved the background, loved all that. But I currently have two in work in progress with him. He actually reached out to me after like 3.5 months. I emailed him or messaged him, and then one day I was at work and he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Wait, are you still drawing?" And it was just amazing. I was like, I even texted my wife. I was like, "You'll never believe it. An artist texts me back. They messaged me back, and I've been trying to get a hold of their work or try to do an AP with them because that's really all that's really left for him right now. He's not in any current sets, but and so he's doing two sketches from 2019 2020, yeah. So
Nice.
I'll show them to you later. I don't have those done yet, but I wanted to show you two that I recently picked up. Um,
Absolutely.
I'll just switch my camera real quick to rear facing, and let me see if you see my background.
I do
Right
see
now?
a wall.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. Yep, see a wall. All right, awesome.
Oh,
So
or it's looking down. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm just gonna hold it to the camera here,
Yeah. Let me
and then you tell me.
let me see
We'll
if I
pull
can
this
make
out too as
you.
well.
Oh wow, that's a Henneman, right?
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
Gambit. This is from 2020, 21. So this is the previous year set. This is from Rich Henneman right here, and I saw this one recently, and I just told myself, you don't see Gambit sketches too often. He's not in the new set as far as characters that can be drawn, I don't believe. So and I said, I love the line work here, the details, the splatter. Um, I'm not sure if you can show actual playing cards on cameras. Do you know if that's something that you can show,
That's
Matt? Or
I would think so. I've got some where he's certainly
Yeah,
throwing one.
there's no copyright on a playing
okay,
card.
I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, but I
I
love
mean,
like just this is like a nostalgia gambit for me. Kind of reminded me of like the '90s style uh, cartoon type of gambit, comic gambit, red eyes, beautiful detailed the hair here, really good line work. Um,
I mean, in
it's
great
best.
use of the white speckle, sort of the reverse
Yeah,
Kirby crackle there.
yeah.
It's
So
very
I
nice.
thought this one really stuck out. And so, with that, as you know, with the new set, I've been really excited. I think we had like even a Doom night on Discord the other night, and I showed this one off.
Yeah,
But I wanted to show it again. But I've just been so excited to have Doctor Doom back into
that's
sets
awesome.
here. And this was well, the story about this one was I actually lost a eBay auction from one of his sketches that he had within the set itself of Doctor Doom. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna reach out to Rich. I'm gonna reach out to the socials and email him and see if we can create something together. So I just gave Rich a broad concept. I said, I'd like to really focus on Doctor Doom, a powerful stance or a powerful position. And then, I told him how much I did like his background work on a lot of his sketches. Something within, maybe Castle or sitting down or just gave him a concept. And Rich was like very nice. He was very responsive via email. And he told me the price, and he said, the turnaround time for him was really great too. It was only about like a little less than 2 weeks,
Oh
and it was
wow.
able to send back to me. So he does have a, but yeah, I'm super happy to have this one in the collection, and
I
I
mean,
don't have
what
any of
jumps up?
Rich's.
I was
What's
going to say,
that?
if you can hold that back up, I love
Yeah,
what you said about the backgrounds. Just look over Doom's left shoulder, just the top of that wall that's peeking there. Look at just the little level of detail in there with
right,
the sort of the bars on that top wall. It's
right.
fantastic. Just shows,
yeah, and
Every
the
piece
beauty
of
of
brick is
this,
different. It's just like a lot of details within the background. I just love that.
the
What were
beauty
you
of
saying,
this is
Jimmy?
that little white um, halo that he's got
sort of the
going
border.
on there.
Yep,
Right.
That really helps the character kind of pop away from the
yep.
background, right?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
that's something when again back when I was inking comics and stuff. I mean, I absolutely relied on that white line to separate characters from the background, and I go through. It was almost like a with the multi-plane camera in that Disney developed
Oh,
in Snow White, where I would do that from foreground to midground to background, you know, and it's a huge that's a huge asset, tool in your arsenal, so to speak.
yeah, no,
And not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I've noticed that Rich does it a little bit more than others, and that's what kind of this white halo that you were telling me, saying about that. This kind of like this highlight outline.
Well,
He's
I
been
mean, it's
doing that a lot, and
that's
I
more of
like
a
that.
separating him from the background than it is a
Right,
than the halo, but it helps the 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 focus of the piece to really pop out. So
and when I first got it, I unpacked it. I was just like, oh, this is nice. Um, I do like. There's certain things that I really really like, and if you're just kind of looking at it from a distance, it looks just like how do you say it? Like a little plain, right? But when you
hmm
actually get it and you start to look at the background and what Matt talked about, the fencing and all the brickwork that he did, and then you even go into his armor, for example, right? There's
right.
little reflection shadows that he put in there with lines, black lines that showed that the armor was actually reflecting, and it's just like
Yeah,
it's
and
and those
you're
things are
also dealing with the when you deal with the line weight in the inks in general, with the thinner lines in the background and the thicker lines in the foreground. Again, I mean that just adds to the illusion, which is, that's just inking 101 right there. I mean,
right.
that's how you do it, right?
Absolutely. And
Right.
there are some artists, it's interesting how there are different ones. There are some, I think that Rich is a great example. I'm thinking Perna, I'm thinking Lack Lim, who do such minute details that
Right.
you really do have to sort of pull that one closer to appreciate them, right?
hmm
uh, and they work well in like a big scan. Where there are others, and the perfect example I think of for this is Jomar Bulder. It's an example where seeing him super up close or super large is a disservice, whereas his are much better at arm's length. And you
Right.
really, it all sort of the composition just falls into place at a distance as opposed to up close. So it's always
I
interesting to
uh
see those different styles.
I'm excited somewhat to see E-Pack this one release because from a scan perspective and just seeing what artwork's still left out there, seeing a battle booklet of Galactus versus Silver Surfer and all the ones that could possibly be out there, Doom and Mr. Fantastic, like these are all the characters that I had been waiting on because I'm just re-entering, technically within a couple of years, re-entering the hobby, right? And so, I still want to get a really nice Silver Surfer Galactus sketch of this, just because I don't know when they're gonna come back, and I just think that this year's annual has been really an enjoyment to break, to rip, to collect. They did a good job with putting some number hits in the box, and the sketches are still very rare out there. And I've seen some great ones as well. I will say that I like these sketches better. Well, for the most part, better than the Flair. What is it? The Flair Ultra Avengers. I felt like a lot of the stuff that I saw, and no offense to the artists, I was just saying position of sketching. Um, felt like I saw a lot more portraits, which is just like mid level up for that. I mean, at least for what's been released so far. Obviously, we haven't seen what's out on EPAC, but just from what I've seen out in the wild, a lot of like mid body to portrait sketches. I feel like maybe they were rushed through it or something. I'm not sure why there were so many out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, here's a dirty secret on that.
oh, sure.
Okay.
Um, and I'm I only say this because I at one point in time I was offered a contract, but it was like a 3 set contract,
Right.
right? And so a lot of artists got like 3 separate contracts at once. It was Spidey Metal, Fleer Ultra Avengers, and another one, and they all came at the same time. So my now at some point, I kind of fell through the cracks and didn't end up getting them. But if it played out the way that I think it did, where you ended up getting 3 sets at once, yeah, it's possible there might have been a little bit of a, okay, a little bit of a crunch time thing, and then of course, as we know, dates kept moving back, but that didn't change what the deadline was
For the sketching, the
necessarily.
sketches,
Yeah,
right? The
yeah.
artist, yeah.
So I mean, I'm giving for those 3 sets, they, uh, give the sketches a pass,
Right,
you know, in that sense, because that was a lot of work dumped in your in
right,
a lot of artists. That was a lot of work dumped in their lap at once, you know, based on whatever their deadline was at the time.
right.
So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we all know what we're getting into when we do it. Um, and you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's fine. But if you're going to step up to the plate, yeah, step up to the plate. It's like I always say, as a sketch card illustrator, they can't all be bangers, buddy. You
Yeah,
know,
we love that word, bangers.
I mean,
But
everybody loves a banger, but not all of them are. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, we sit here and we go, dude, this is going to be awesome, and then you finish it, and it's like, all right,
I
on to
always,
the next one.
when I'm working with an artist on an
So,
AP, my last question to them is, "Do you like it?" Because, I was like, "I love it. I think it's great, but do you like
oh,
it?" Because I just really want to know the artist's opinion. Like, and the best ones are always going to be the ones that are real, honest with me. Just because I genuinely want to know if you like it or not. And, because we will
yeah. I mean,
share the
and
same
it's
appreciation
generally
for
a
it.
loaded question because it's like, do
Yeah.
I like it? And it's like, well, do you like it? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like, yeah, dude. I mean, if you put all the variables in place, it's like, yeah, I'm happy with what I did, with the time allotted, or under the situation I happen to be in, at that moment personally.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, yeah, okay, yeah, that foots the bill. But I mean, are there cards that I have literally turned around and had collectors send back to me to fix? Absolutely. You know, and because it's like, not really happy with that. I don't like the fact that it's like, oh, I really love this card. It's like, but do you? Because I don't. Send it back to me. I'll fix it. You
Wow.
know, and
The
and
the
then
only thing I've
as a
ever
matter of
considered sending back to fix are white eyes, the all white power eyes. Because
oh
to me,
yeah,
it has to be a certain character. Like to me,
Uh,
Storm, do all the white
well,
eyes you want, because
right.
that's her
yeah,
character. Right?
Well, but Jean Grey. What about Jean Grey? White eyes or no white
It
eyes?
really it depends. If it's
The
just
Phoenix.
Jean,
Phoenix.
no. If it's Phoenix, maybe, right?
Okay.
But there are
yeah.
one or two I got where it's like a character who's just basically like trained themselves, right? So they have no powers, and it was the white eyes, and I was like,
Yeah, like
mm,
The old white
and
eyes
I'm
debate.
cool. I'm cool with like a white contact if you got like this crazy gray area, like a Batman as an example. So he can't be identified by whatever color his eye is.
exactly.
Throws in a white contact. I'm cool with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think with like Wolverine as an example, you know, it looks cool, totally, with the white eye, but and this is a guy that's got his cowl on.
Yeah.
Oh, we may have lost him.
Oh, yeah.
Might have disconnected.
Little locked up.
Well, Matt, I didn't mean to slow you down with
No,
Okay,
showing your
there's
collection.
the internet.
no, not at all.
I
And all I was going to say to you is just keep in mind, as once annual comes out, um, when you mention the specific characters you're looking for, in terms of like if you see some battle booklets you like, that's I think one you should probably go after, because the only other set I'm aware of coming up that will feature Fantastic Four and the related characters is Beginnings, and I
Yeah,
don't
and
believe
they
they
won't
will have
have battle books.
versions.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think there's going to be a ton of Fantastic Four and Doom. There's going to be some really good options between those two sets. So I'm excited for you.
Well,
Yes,
I'm gonna
in
wa- I'm gonna be
Beginnings.
watching back at this, and I can't wait to see some more of your collection, Matt. Jalen Warner, what a pleasure to see you and talk to you. I can't wait to take a look at dive into your work. I've been seeing some of your, you know, I don't know if you call them paintings or not because they're beautiful, right? But
Oh,
I want to
thanks,
be able
man.
to look into your stuff a little bit more, and I may DM you for some future stuff in the future. But I appreciate the opportunity. And Matt, I'll go back and I'll watch more of this and learn some more about
Cool.
what you have in your collection for annual.
Awesome.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for
the
stopping
time,
by.
y'all.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry I
Have a
had to
good
cut
rest of
short
the
tonight.
weekend.
Have a great one. Take care.
All right.
Later.
Take care.
Yeah.
No problem, brother. Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I
Good,
think I got
good.
maybe like a dozen cards in so far.
Yeah, well, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
blast through these.
This is an interesting one. So this is Ernest Romero, and he did. Oh my God, he's done at least 30 cards of this theme, which is various X-Men in front of various dismembered Sentinels. And there's one person out there who got a huge chunk of them. I only have one from the series, which is Marrow.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I really like it. Again, it's a very simple rendered card,
Well,
but
is that watercolor or is that marker?
yes, yes. Now, as far as I can tell, let me pull it up on. You might be able to tell better from this one.
Well, you should be able to tell just by the feel of it.
Oh, I didn't even thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, if it feels like it's pretty toothy, it's probably watercolor. If it feels smooth, it's probably just alcohol marker. But it looks like
Yeah,
watercolor.
yeah, hard to. It might be alcohol because I'm not feeling any
Oh
sort
yeah,
of
yeah,
depth.
yeah. No, as I'm zoomed in, yeah, that's alcohol marker.
Yeah, but just a really cool idea to sort of
But it
make
does
in.
look like watercolor, which is really cool.
Yeah, and just a lot of variety of color here. I mean, this one's got, you got yellows, purples, reds, green, blues, just a real lot going on there, which I like. And again, I like in the old Rittenhouse days, you would get a lot of subsets that artists did, and so I like the idea that he's got this whole X-Men Sentinel subset within the cards he did. I think it just adds another level of collectability and chase to
Yep.
sketch cards, which is great to see. And that one was looks like 21. Hard to tell on some of these. Go back to another Ghost Rider, Jenner Perdina, or I always wonder if I've got it right, if it's Pedrina or Perdina. Oh, I'm sorry, but it's not even. No, this is Irwin. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Jenner's a little down the line. This is Irwin Ropa. Sorry, Irwin. I tried to credit you to someone else. Again, what I'm definitely have gotten a real appreciation for inks when it came to sketch cards. You
Yeah.
can really see when a card is well done with inks, how it really helps kind of complete that whole picture between that and the really offset the colors. There are definitely some artists who rely much more heavier on colors and just shading on the colors, but I'm definitely a fan of inks. I think that goes back to, not to get off Marvel, but back in 2007 and 8 in Lord of the Rings sets, there's this artist who did do some early Marvel. I think he did Women of Marvel and maybe one other set, Dave Fox. And he just had some really bold, dark ink work that I just fell in love with. So,
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you mention that. And I say that in the sense that I think with the whole sketch card thing in general, it's kind of turned into, okay, these are, I mean, more than anybody knows, has a good handle on the history of sketch cards, where it started off as being, here's a pencil sketch
Yeah,
by
literally a sketch.
by Mike Waringo, right? And then it turned into, okay, well, here's a full color, sketch. So you've gone from, there's this evolution of going from just straight pencils to pencils and inks and colors to now it's like, and everybody makes the distinction. It's like, these are not sketch cards, these are art cards, right? So you got guys that are like, doing full oil or acrylic paintings on cards and stuff. And, that's obviously all building their brand, and kudos to them, right? But, you know, the I think what's lost on a lot of illustrators is the fact that people do appreciate the line work, in sketch cards.
Yeah, and
The inks
I
per
would
se.
say that the people who came, and this, I don't want this to be gatekeeping. I think this, I'm trying to explain why I think some people appreciate it more. And I'll speak from my own experience. I grew up reading comics and loving the art. So
Yeah.
when the best example I can think of is when Art Adams came onto the scene, right? Like you could spend 20 minutes just staring at one page and seeing all the details. And I think that's how I
Dude,
learned to appreciate the art.
Art
And
Adams, Bernie Wrightson, all those
even,
guys.
another one who I loved, and when it comes to ink work, was John Romita Jr. with all his hatchings.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely loved that back on the Spider-Man runs and whatnot. I mean, fantastic.
Oh,
So
got
that
Scott
growing up
Williams.
doing that. That's how I apply my eye to sketch cards.
Yeah. And it's funny, and again, this, I think this is something that we kind of covered a little bit in the podcast. Was, everybody's got their own taste, right? I mean, you're going to have guys that are looking for their Fred Ians, right? But you're
Yeah.
also going to have guys that prefer a Tony Perna. You know what I mean? And it's, as as a mook like me, which route do you go? I mean, I can do either or, and to some degree, I do a little bit of everything. But the thing is that you know, and I try to give a little bit of everything to everybody. But I mean, it's like, I think as a sketch card, by definition, it should be a sketch, right? I mean, I look at guys like Gordon Wills as an example, where you can jam something out. It's a nice composition. It's great characterization. You can see the line work that he put into it and stuff. It's not necessarily a super finished piece, but it's like you've got all the information there, right? And you can see, like, in his finished drawing, you can literally see every pencil mark that he made. Whether or not it's visible, you can see everything that he put into it in that one piece. And that's the stuff that really gets me. Like Fernando Pinto.
Yeah. Which
Oh
is
my.
funny because that's who's right here on the screen.
Oh, is it?
This Magic. Yeah, that's my next card is Fernando Pinto Magic. Yep. In fact,
Oh,
I'll get my.
yeah. He's definitely mixed things up as of late, though. I mean, he's got more of a cartoony style now, which is freaking awesome because it just shows it's literally the character is more animated. Yeah,
Not too
but
shabby, definitely.
you can tell in the line work.
Yep, between the line work, it's also got that white border we were talking about earlier to help make it
Mm-hmm.
sort of pop. Just
Yeah,
fantastic
so
work.
even with the left arm, with the armored arm, against the rest of her,
it's fantastic. And we'll go to, so again, this will be another great side by side comparison. So this is another Fernando here. This is Fernando Ramirez. You want to talk about a totally different style, right? I mean, look at this.
Oh yeah.
But it's so fun. Like to me, and I think I can talk candidly about this because I only have love for this artist. I think some people would look at this style and say, "Oh, that's not." I think some people have said cards like this aren't real art. You know what I mean? And to me, this is the exact opposite. This
Yeah.
is simple style, and it's fun, and it's whimsical, and it's about what comics are about. Like this to me has a very Hembeck feel to it, right? Going back to
I
sort of
I sit back and say, go ahead. Uh, Tell me that Katie Cook is not an artist.
yeah,
I'll fight you.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, well, so
dude. I
her
mean,
millions of My Little Pony fans,
oh
so
gosh,
she's got an army at her disposal.
who's who's the and I think he might have worked with some mythology thing or whatever. I know. Oh, you got the like the 4-card puzzle from the guy with the all the mutants and stuff.
Yes, I have two. The more cartoony one,
Yeah. What's his
Benjamin
name?
Glendenning. Yeah,
Who?
Ben Glendenning is his name.
No, not him.
Oh, well,
This
the
is
other one I have is
it's the Hispanic gentleman.
is it
Juan.
I don't know if I have a four. The other one I thought was Abdul Gofur was the other one I had the 4-card one of. You're talking about the Jim Lee cover recreation?
No.
Oh, okay. So this,
So it could have been like a 2-card or 3-card, but I know you have one from him. But his stuff is, and this actually reminds me of it very much.
Juan Mendez?
Juan Mendez.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That guy is so good.
Yeah.
So good. But I mean, this has that same vibe, right?
Absolutely.
So
not to get off annual, but there you go.
That's it. That's the guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my goodness. He is
I absolutely
so good.
Yeah, he did quite a few sketches for the most recent Middle Earth set, and he absolutely slayed it.
Mm-hmm.
So
guy's an animal.
Yeah.
Absolute beast.
Yeah, and just again, I think people who come in and only focus on, and again, believe me, I've got my stash of Fred Ians that I will guard vociferously, but people who think only Fred Ian and that hyper realistic style are quote unquote worthy, I think they're missing out on an opportunity. And I think, again, coming from this comic background, to me, this is just a fun sketch.
Yeah, I think Nando, Gordo, these guys are just way underrated, in my opinion, because I mean they just bring so much energy to it. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there. The whole that argument, which is, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that when you have, even though it looks like it's simple, it's not.
Oh yeah.
It's actually harder to render anything with fewer lines than to use more lines to cover up the mistakes, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Here's a good example, as a matter of fact. I mean, that's not, somebody could, the layman could look at this and say, it's like, no, that's everything you need to know right there.
I mean,
with as little as needed, really.
I mean, the first phrase that popped in my head doesn't work because it's a blob. I was going to say there's no fat on this card, but okay, bad example,
right?
Because of
right. But again, you do more with less, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
and then
it's
took the time to leave some space to shade in the blue and not make the outfit all black. Really just
oh the technical savvy that some of these illustrators have is just it's mind blowing. And don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily consider myself a complete mutt, but some of these guys just blow me away, you know, because I just keep trying to add more and more and more. And these guys are trying to strip it down
yep.
and just crushing it. So
Yeah, so that's Guile Sharp is the artist. And then we'll go into someone who does do quite a bit of detail, Huey Trong. Huey
oh
does
yeah,
some wonderful, wonderful work. And in fact, this might be one that it's worth showing the bigger one, which is right here. I think you can see a lot better sort of the
yeah, I gotta go on the big screen and wait for it.
yeah.
There we go.
I think it's interesting, you've got the sort of white halo around him that sort of blends into a little bit of the yellow and then little bit of the bluish purple around the end, just sort of how it does that gradient out from him on the colors. Just love that little detail.
Yeah, he didn't go heavy on his blacks in blocking it out, but he really got some great detail, especially in the face with his tones.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, again, I mean, it's funny going through your collection and looking at all this stuff, and you see so many different styles and so many different approaches to things, and they all work
Yep.
in their own way, you know. And I think that this is probably why you're the goat in general, is that you can appreciate, you know, more than one style, one look, more, and more or less know what you're looking at, right?
Yeah,
And
and for me, it's both the art, but I think what helps me in all those as well is just letting the cards do the callbacks to me, right? And I think a good card both stands on its own, but in a lot of cases, like it might evoke a certain issue that I've read, right? And it brings me back to that. So when a
yep,
card can hit it on both the art front and the nostalgia front, that's where it really works. And I think
yeah,
that's the advantage. Someone who came in from the comic side versus either the MCU side or even not even Marvel at all from the sports side and just came in.
yep,
I think it just shows that different perspective and how you look at these cards. So I think that's a big part for me, at least, on why a lot of these have that appeal and why you're exactly right. Why very different styles, like these two right here. Stop sharing this so you can sort of see them side by side. This you've got Huey, and then this is I think it's Ian. Let me see. Yeah, it's Ian Carranti. Same character. You get all the same details there with the tentacles, but slightly further away.
yeah.
Different.
It's a different approach.
Yeah, and with the it's part of me looks at this and you're like, oh well, he sort of cut it off there and he didn't use all the space, but then you see how he used this to make that border there and then extend only the hand up beyond that, which
Yep.
really adds that sort of breaking the wall effect.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a fourth wall type
Yeah.
thing. I
Yeah.
always like I always like it when illustrators do that, and I haven't done it that much. I've done it a few times, and I'm always happy with the result. But again, it's one of those things where if you have the time for it, do it. Do everything you can to make your card pop. But if you don't, you know, unfortunately, sometimes you just gotta knock it out.
Yep. So now here's an interesting side by side, and we talked about this, at least touched on it briefly. So I'm going to have to use a different background for this because this is a plexi card, so I got to put it on a white background just to
Okay.
help it sort of pop out there. And I think when you see it on that, it really, really works. And this is the same artist. These are both by Ian Caranti, same set, but one on the regular paper and one on the plexi. And I think it came out great. And from everything I've heard, this was a terrible, terrible surface to work on.
Well, here's the thing: is that and you know very well that I've played around with the plexiglass a little bit, just to try and figure out how to do it. Um, the thing is that my understanding, anyways, is that these plexiglass cards are very much like those stained glass cards, right? Where it's a piece of plexiglass, but there's literally that vinyl sticker that covers the entire side, right? So they're not even drawing on the plexiglass itself, right? And you can tell me, I mean, you've got the card right in front of you, but you know, it seems to me that it's not drawn on the plexiglass itself. It's drawn on that little vinyl decal that's stuck on it. Now, there's only so many, the only marker that I can think of that you could possibly make work on that is a Sharpie. And those don't come in I mean, if you go out of your way to try and find them, you can find a lot of colors, but the average Joe is not going to be able to come up with, all the colors of the rainbow for Sharpies. So, I mean, anybody that can pull that sketch off is a freaking Greek god in my mind.
I mean, and this is a perfect example. Like I think at this size on the screen, it works, and as a card, it works. But to go ahead and zoom this in, I'll show you. It's not pretty, right? You don't want to see.
You're going to
You
get.
don't
You're
want to
still
see
going to get.
dirty details.
You're going to get
Right?
streaks, right?
Yeah, and just you can see sort of the chin when you zoom it in doesn't look
Oh yeah.
great, but again, at card size and at arm's length, it works. So that's the problem with all these scans, right? Sometimes it's great,
That's
and sometimes it's just a horror show.
all things being considered, that's a legit sketch on that
Oh yeah,
surface.
absolutely.
Using it, keep in mind, we're talking about Sharpies.
Yeah.
I mean, which is not exactly an art marker.
It's not what comes to mind when you're talking
No,
art.
no. I mean, dude. That's to pull something off that hardcore is that's you. It's you can't do it, really. That's why it's like, when I was playing around with plexiglass, I was actually like sanding them.
I remember you said that to sort of get something to stick. Yeah.
Yeah, I would sand them just to give them some tooth, and I wouldn't even use markers because I didn't want the marker to ink, to leak into the crevices. I would use like colored pencil and then like melt it with a hair dryer. Just to get a nice even. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I mean, I can't even imagine getting a set of those. I mean, just because I'm as anal retentive as I am about it, I would like take a razor, an X-Acto knife and be like cutting the decal off and, except for the border, and then, sanding it down and, trying to get a perfect work surface and oh God.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough to get $5 just to draw a regular card. To have to do all that pre-production work, forget it. Come on.
Oh yeah, all the prep. Now I do know that, and this is something that JD was telling me. He was telling me that Malik did, when she did the plexis, she would actually put a coat of gesso on it and paint on it.
Now, who was that did that?
A car.
A car. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
and so
Okay,
and then have like a good toothy surface to work on.
that's
So,
pretty clever, actually.
oh yeah, I mean, it's in all honesty, that's probably the only way you could pull that off. I missed the comment. Let me.
Oh, that was just that was a Southern who was on earlier, just saying Omega Red Fire.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, we were talking about cartoony earlier. This is a guy who's, I mean, he's been around for a while, but I think he's another one that does really amazing cartoony work, which is Jason Meents, Ments. I mean, he just really does lovely work. And in fact, I could probably put, if I could put all three next to each other, and just kind of save the whole one-off presentation, right? I mean, that's just wonderful stuff to me. Just very, very clean ink work, very clean colors, and a very cutesy, chibi-esque style. Not pure chibi, but definitely getting towards that in terms of it. I mean, this is a great 1, 2, 3. I mean, he even makes Omega Red look cute, which is not easy.
No, and but again, and this is the artist's choice to, again, with their color palette, versus their style, and making it all work, together, as opposed to, you know, over overdoing it, which is so easy to do, you know.
Yeah, well, we just hit the 2 hour mark, so that's probably a pretty decent place to cut it as well. Don't want to
Well, I'm
push the
sorry you
boundary.
didn't get through the entire collection.
No, yeah, believe me, I got content for years here. It's all good. It's a good stopping point. Probably a little shy of halfway. So, I believe me, it gives me an excuse to keep doing this. You know, um, the hardest part of doing this for me is just convincing myself that I should do it. I don't know a better way to say it. Like, I'm not the guy who wants to be in front of the camera. So every time I do
Yeah,
this, I get
no,
my comfort zone.
I I hear you. I mean, it's when I was doing the streaming and stuff, it was which I'm inevitably going to start doing again. Yeah, man, riding solo sucks. It's always easy having somebody to chat with, and that way you don't feel like you're boring.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this is more a passion project than I'm not
oh yeah,
doing
yeah,
this
yeah. No,
for
it's not.
4,000
It's not an
followers. You know what I
influencer
mean?
thing or anything like that. It's just sharing, right? It's bringing the love, so to speak. So,
Yeah. And the
but
beautiful
I'll
thing
tell
is,
you what, you ever need a wingman, let me know, dude. I'd
cool.
be
I
more
appreciate it.
more than happy to come on and
Yeah. I mean,
hang
what I
out and
like doing about this is I really like, and you sort of addressed it. I like being able to be a voice to try to, educate's the wrong word, but just to show others that there's more to these sketch cards or art cards, or whether the name will ever mature over time into something to designate them probably more appropriately than just the big name of the moment, right? And
well,
again,
but it's I probably the better way of putting it is it's more than just a one of one.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, in some ways it's more than a one of one, but also to show people that every sketch is a one-on-one. It's not just the big hits that are one-on-ones. It's every single one.
Yeah.
That not every artist style is going to resonate with every person, but that in no way means there isn't something to love about every card. And I think that's what I want to get across. And maybe that sounds a little too hippy dippy, but I do get frustrated as a collector when I am watching a break and someone will pull, a card, and have that sort of disappointment. And it's I look at the
Yep.
card and I'm like, dude, I would love to own that card, but it's not, the it's not a Glebe or an Ian or an Ash. It's not one of the guys who you've got a chance of getting four figures for, basically, when they're
Right.
just looking at that name brand to get a return. I think
Well,
there's
and
so
that was one of the things that I covered was, the when Ian asked, do you think, what do you think has happened basically with the value of sketch cards? And my question was, well, what's the definition of value, right? It's like I think that, I think it's a hit, regardless, it should be valued as a hit. Whether you personally value that card, you know what? Art is, it's subjective. So you may not personally value it. Um, does everybody else value that card? That's where the whole monetary value comes in.
right.
And I think that we're leaning towards this direction where, um, and I actually mentioned it in the podcast where it's like, I don't think it's so much valued monetarily or valued personally, but it's certainly valued as trade bait.
Yeah.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm not even, it doesn't matter. I'm totally cool if somebody like pulls one of my cards and says, "Hey, I can go get whatever PMG for this card." It's like,
Yeah.
good on you, bro. I
Yeah.
mean, it
And
is
if
what
they
it is. I
can, that
mean,
that means the
one,
person who can appreciate it for the art is getting it. So it works out for
well,
both parties.
that and the whoever ended up getting something that they could appreciate more
Yep.
for that piece, it's a win-win. I mean, when again, everybody seems to think that we take offense, that the sketch card illustrators take offense to, oh, I can't believe that sold for X amount of dollars on eBay or whatever, And it's like, dude, once it's out of my hands, it's out of my hands. I mean, I signed the contract. I know what I signed up for. That's what it is, right?
Yep.
I'm all good. I got my APs, right? Keep selling those things, on eBay for, a bajillion dollars. That just means my AP prices go up, you
Absolutely.
know. So I mean, I'll go in there and bid that up myself. I don't care.
Shill bidding, don't do it. Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
funny now
no,
that you. I was just gonna say, I'm gonna spend the rest of my night revisiting all my Juan Mendez sketches. Now that you brought it up, I've got them up on the
yeah,
screen over to the side. Yeah, and Southern Hype nailed it, right? I mean, there is almost this concept of personal value versus dollar value when it comes to
yeah.
sketch cards and art, right? That's a good way to look at it.
And I think I think that is a good way to look at it. I mean, this is something that I brought up in the podcast where I don't think I I think that a lot of the illustrators that are working on sketch cards genuinely try to please their audience, try to give you guys what you want, right?
Yep.
And it's hit or miss, obviously, but I mean, we want the work to be appreciated, and I mean, in the grand scheme of things, do I want everybody that actually pulls a sketch of mine to turn around and put that in the black hole? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's your first inclination. But on the flip side, economically speaking, as a commercial artist, no, flip that bitch and get as much as you possibly can for it.
Because that only
and
helps.
build my brand for me, kind of a thing. So, it's it's a catch-22, right? So, and that's one of the things that always cracks me up is watching some of the stuff on, in group or whatever, where it's like, oh, I got these sketches for sale, and it's like, why are none of my sketches coming up? Is it because it's not worth anything, or is it because it went into a black hole? So you never know.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Well,
I
cool.
giggle at myself for that, but
So I'm going to just wrap up the
wrap it up.
broadcast. You and I can still chat after this if we want, but I'm just going to hit the end here. So thank you for anyone who tuned in and watched this. Thank you, Mr. Warner and Southern Hype, for stopping in. And for anybody who watches this after the fact, appreciate it. What am I supposed to say? Smash that like button? Oh, whatever. Do whatever you want.
Subscribe,
Thanks,
smash that
everybody.
like button.
We
Hit
got
the
about a third of the way
notification
through my
bell.
Marvel annual, and yeah, I assume the next one we'll just pick right off. Looks like I'm on Jeff Mallinson, and we'll just go from there next time. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.